Hey guys, this is James.
And this is Denny from TeaDB, bringing you guys episode 31.
Yep, and today we are reviewing another Oriental Beauty.
Yes, so I love this stuff.
Yeah, it's probably our most reviewed tea on TeaDB, actually.
Yeah, actually thinking about it, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful looking so far. This is from Teamasters.
Yep.
So we have the same size Gaiwan as last episode, 125 milliliters. We actually have, from volume perspective, it looks like a lot more tea, but from a weight perspective, it's less tea. So we have a 6.6 grams here. We'll go ahead and use all of this. This was kind of one big sample we got. And my suggestion with Oriental Beauty, I found that a lot of leaf, really filling up the Gaiwan to 2/3 of the Gaiwan, works really well.
Yep. And for me, I don't drink as much Oriental Beauty as Denny does, but for teas that are really fluffy, for me, that tends to be a wooey tea.
Right.
You got to fill that guy up. So, I mean, fill it up to 3/4, fill it up all the way, see what happens.
And that's a good recommendation for oolong, but I wouldn't necessarily do the same thing with something like green tea or black tea, because you'll have a horrifically intense cup of tea that way. So
for sure,
make sure that you do know what you're drinking before you follow these guidelines.
Yeah, or otherwise you will learn the lesson very quickly. So worse things have happened.
So
also don't fill it up with rolled oolong, because that will not not
gosh.
work.
Yeah, it'd be insane.
That'd be a lot.
So we're actually going to go ahead and drink the first rinse steeping of this. I find that teas like this, where they're untreated, purposefully, and nice and fluffy, really do perform very well just straight from the get-go.
And by untreated, are you talking about like Oriental Beauty with like a lack of pesticides? And wow,
Exactly.
look how clean that is on the first tea.
Yeah, beautiful looking.
Hardly
leaves.
any, like, very clear, hardly any bubbles at all. And it's interesting that you say that, because Stefan, who runs Teamasters, also often does not rinse his teas.
As you said last time, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a huge vote of confidence in terms of just like the cleanliness of his teas. And one of the questions I asked Stefan was like, hey, what do you drink on a daily basis? Like, I drink the teas that I sell. So another great vote of confidence for your own inventory.
Yeah. So we'll do this for about 30 seconds, and I'm actually using pretty far off the boil water, so like 170 cold for most folks for an oolong. But I find that actually Oriental Beauty performs really well, especially with this style of brewing like this. So this first steeping will not be quite as bold and strong as the second and third ones will, but hopefully be very good. So
awesome.
It's been about 30, and we'll go ahead and just kind of figure out, based on the look of the tea itself and the taste and feel and all the different aspects of tea, and make an assessment about the second and third steeping.
So in terms of color, complexion, and stuff like that, does this look about right to you?
You know, actually, it's really quite yellow compared to some of the other ones. And I noticed also that the leaves are particularly white, and I think
the white tips.
Yeah, exactly. So there are many different things about about Oriental Beauty, but one of them is that kind of characteristic dried white tip part.
Yep.
And this looks beautiful. So
yeah, very clean color. But yeah, like you're saying, I tend to brew my Oriental Beauty on with a heavier hand. Well, I tend to brew most of my teas with a heavier hand, so I'm used to actually more of a reddish color. So this is interesting, and not necessarily in a bad way at all.
Yeah, I think we'll see it evolve there.
Okay.
Soon.
Awesome.
But here's our first steeping. Here we go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Really nice.
Yeah.
You know,
it's definitely got kind of like that sweetness, honey-like sweetness on the front end, which is quite delicious. And Denny and I were kind of talking before filming this episode, kind of just about like our experiences with Oriental Beauty and stuff like that. And I found that this is a great introduction tea to just people that aren't used to Taiwanese Oolongs and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's just a great gateway tea. So if you want to get your friends hooked on tea, then you should definitely feed them this tea.
And you know, interestingly enough, I think there's enough reminiscent flavors in Oriental Beauty to appeal to people that drink black tea and really love black tea, as well as people that like a kind of a creamier oolong tea too. So it's totally a great introduction tea. especially if it's high quality. And and as long as you're brewing it with cold enough water, it's very forgiving too.
Yeah.
So
and
one of my favorites.
Yeah, and thinking about that might actually be the reason why this color is kind of yellowish, is because this is actually the rinse, and I'm not used to drinking the rinse.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be really interesting. I'm very curious to see how this changes.
And you can definitely tell that it is still rinsed. I mean, we're getting good flavor, but that being said, it's still a little thin.
Yep.
And I think we'll actually increase the steep time a little bit. The water has cooled down a little bit too, but we won't go ahead and reboil. So we're going to increase the steep time. The quality of these leaves, I have to say, are spectacular. No sediment or particulate in it at all. The water that you pour in directly is just gorgeous.
Definitely.
Really nice.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of my favorite parts of Oriental Beauty, kind of that opening, roasted, nutty taste. I love that it has a little bit of sort of a kind of corn taste in it, and then I think that it ends with kind of a sweetness. And this is performing just like that, and it's really quite nice so far. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a deeper saturation of the color, as well as a little bit more viscosity and a little bit of a bolder taste.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I love this tea basically whenever. Maybe not right before bed. I find that I like to drink ripe if it's going to be close to bedtime. It just doesn't get me as
Jittery.
Jittery, exactly. But it's still nice and warms me up. So
yeah. And for me, I treat this tea almost identically to a black tea. For me, this is a black tea substitute.
Yeah.
So if I'm not drinking my Yunnan Black, then I'll whip out the Oriental Beauty. Or if I want to do a Taiwanese Oolong session with people, you can just kind of show them diversity that Taiwanese Oolongs have to offer. Like we have something great like this Shanli Shi right here. But we also have these wonderful, more oxidized Oolongs like Oriental Beauty, which can be just as nice. And and here we go. And you can see the colors totally filling out, totally clean still, but kind of like more of an orangish color. And I've even seen, perhaps as we steep this further, it will get into kind of like the reddish color that you get if you use kind of like your heavy hand with Oriental Beauty.
Really, texture-wise, much thicker. Flavor-wise, actually, I think pretty similar. So, interestingly, I think that the first steeping was a strong showing. So we can even play around with steepness for a little bit longer.
Yeah. In some ways, this actually reminds me kind of the Korean Hwangcha we had a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Kind of with that little bit of that silky texture. Very, very nice.
And I think that's probably a reflection of the quality of tea, as well as the particular way that Oriental Beauty is processed. But really lovely. Yeah, this is really high quality, very nice, and definitely something to treat as a little special occasion.
How would you say this compares to kind of like your Oriental Beauty daily drinkers? I think your normal one is floating leaves.
Well, I'd say that they're pretty similar. So, I mean, I can definitely taste this is Oriental Beauty like the other tea that I have is, and the floating leaves tea that I have is quite high quality. So, not to say that this isn't great tea, but that I tend to be drinking a pretty nice cup of Oriental Beauty in general too. That being said, I think that there's actually a little bit more viscosity in this one. So flavor profile wise, very similar, like almost identical, but silkiness, like you talked about, viscosity, a little bit better. And right out of the gate, performing really nicely.
How about cleanliness? I'm amazed by the cleanliness of this tea, but I'm curious to see how it compares with
I think that's actually a good point. We saw almost no bubbles.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was actually amazing to me.
Right. No bubbles, and what you'll see often is maybe a little bit of bubbles, and around the bubbles a little bit of kind of a white color, and it's kind of a little bit of this like kind of tea sediment gunk stuff, and usually that's why you're rinsing your tea.
And if you're brewing wooey tea, the whole top of it will often be bubbles. That's like what I'm used to, and I'm like, wow. And the tea could be amazing tea still, but that doesn't mean that it definitely needs a rinse.
Yeah, absolutely. So just pouring this tea, it performed beautifully just right out of the gate. Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a reflection of picking a good tea farmer and working with someone who's credible and knows how to do their craft.
Definitely. And Stefan is based in Taiwan. He's lived there for several years now, so ton of experience just sourcing teas and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you're talking about someone that's close to the source, then he certainly is.
Absolutely. So thanks for checking in, guys. This has been another episode of TeaDB.
Yeah.
James, if people want to learn more about tea, what should they do?
Yeah, they should come check us out at TeaDB.org. We've been doing a lot of features on Taiwanese Oolongs in particular, with a lot of great articles, stuff like that, as well as kind of vendor profiles. So I think the one for Stefan either just got released or should be getting released very soon, which is kind of an interview talking about a little bit about what he does, what his offerings are, just kind of his general philosophy on Taiwanese tea and stuff. So
yeah. Go ahead and subscribe to TeaDB on YouTube. Check us out on our website. And hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you want to hit us up. I'm more than happy to start the dialogue.
Yep. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Cheers. Take care, guys.